Okay.
Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne, your guest. And this is Tulu. I was going to ask the questions. She's got over 50 questions for Esther, which means it'll be part 1, part 2, part 3, or part 4. It should be long. So we'll just welcome Esther. It's good to see you here. It's good to have you come and visit us. I can't promise I'll be able to bring all the answers, but heaven was responsible for leading Tulu to get the questions. So I'm sure heaven will help me bring your voice. So Esther says, hello, Tulu. How are you?
I'm good. How are you as well, Esther? Nice
I'm
to have
good.
you.
It's a tremendous honor and privilege to come down and speak to Earth once again. The people of heaven are anxiously waiting to hear my answers to these questions, and they've all been sent a copy of the questions, and they're looking forward to the interview. So there may be only 20 or 30 people watch it on Earth, but heaven tunes in, and they've tuned in right now.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you all for all our viewers in heaven. My next question is, do you remember what it was like to lose both your parents at a very young age?
I don't have much memory of my parents. I was very young, but it was debilitating. Any person who becomes an orphan, the things that set them straight, the things that give them stability, your two parents, is taken away from you, and you've got to rely on other people to have someone to love and someone to raise you up. And so I was very young when I lost them. Matthew's not aware of the age, but he's getting a sense that I was under 6.
Thank you, Esther. And what was it like? Obviously, your uncle Mordecai brought you up. What was it like living with Mordecai, if you could remember?
Mordecai was like a prophet, and he was very loving. He was my uncle, and he is related through blood. And does it say, Matthew doesn't know, does it say Mordecai was my mother's brother, or was it my father's brother?
I think it was your father's brother.
Okay, so he was good to me. He was a lot like Benjamin, your husband, very strict and down the line. He had boundaries that you could walk in, and he was strict, but his discipline was meted out with equal amounts of love and compassion and understanding. And so he's very adept, and he was very caring of me, and I was a very sensitive woman, and he appealed to my womanhood. He appealed to my emotions, and was able to speak to me like another woman. Essentially, we used to have good conversations. You know, a female will tell a story and she'll go all over the place. It's like 100 train tracks all going off, and a male will tell a story and it's one track. And Mordecai was able to follow all the tracks of my conversation and talk to me sometimes like a woman.
Thank you. And how will you describe the bond between you and Mordecai?
Eternal, forged in steel, gold, precious. He he told me of my parents. He often, as I grew up, told me characteristics of my father and mother. And he was gentle with me and kind. Um, he was like my father in many respects. He tells me that he was like my father in many respects, and he was gentle, kind, and loving and understanding. And I was a bit of a talker. I like to talk and share my heart, and he was patient with me and listened to all my stories and my goings on.
Thank you. Were there instances in your life where you felt you had your father and mother around? Were there events, special events that you missed them growing up?
No, I wasn't aware of my father and mother in the afterlife. It's not as though I felt them watching over me like some people do. But my uncle was sure to share with me my father's tastes and my mother's tastes, and he brought me up as close as he could to how he imagined they would bring me up. So he sort of put a style, put a certain way that he addressed me and brought me up according to what he believed my mother and father would have done. He didn't have to do that. He could have just done things his way, but he made an effort to share with me stories and things about my mother and father, and their favorite foods and their favorite restaurants, and their favorite things that they like to do. He liked to do those things with me and share those foods with me, and share his heart with me in every aspect that he could.
Thank you, Esther. What values or lessons did he impacted into your life? Obviously, you lived with him.
Um, he instilled in me a sense for what is right, a sense of the law of Israel. He instilled in me the law. Um, he showed me what is right and what is wrong. Besides my own reading of the law, he was able to model the right behavior in me. He encouraged my speaking. He encouraged me to have conversations. He encouraged me to expound on what I think. He encouraged me to read. He encouraged me to study. He taught me to apply myself to whatever task I was doing. He instilled a spirit of excellence in me, where when I was going to attempt or do something, I did it to the best of my ability. He showed me patience. He showed me how to love. He my life and my circumstance. He instilled in me the ability to accept things, accept bad things, accept life with all its ups and downs. He developed patience in me and endurance in me, and I was quite a feisty teenager, and he was able to rein some of me in, but allowed me to be free-spirited like a stallion.
Thank you, Esther. You mentioned something that he taught you how to accept bad and good things of life. How do you think parents should approach bringing up their children when it comes to letting them know that challenges are going to come, but it's fine, it's part of life?
Well, it's hard. I'll give an answer, but for people listening, it's hard for Matthew to express proper parenting advice, because he never grew up with his son. He didn't have a son, so his son was estranged from him from ages 8. But I would suggest parents find the natural gifts and abilities that their children have, help the children pursue their interests, don't push them, but encourage them to get skills and get better experience. Don't allow them to play for 4 hours on a video game. Don't allow them to go into their room and watch Netflix all night. Limit their use of social media, limit other things, encourage them to interact with their friends, and encourage them to interact with you and your father, you and their father. Try and discover who they are and what sort of temperament they have, and try and help them curb the deficits in their temperament, but at the same time encourage their strengths. So Matthew has always been a messy person, and he would take a really understanding wife, a real clean wife to clean up after him, and he's happy in his mess. And if you came to his house, you couldn't live in his house till you're such a clean person. And you may have a son like that whose room is always a mess, and there's trouble when it comes to washing dishes and putting things in the thing, just a messy son. Try and have him clean up his room once a month, or try and Matthew's mother did her best to make him clean up his room once every few weeks, and Matthew hated it, but he did it. Now he hasn't got a mother. He's got clothes on the floor and they stay there, and sometimes he picks up some shorts, were last season's shorts, still on his floor. And so that's just an example of something that's like a bad trait in one of your children. You may curb it until they leave home, and then they may revert back to that bad trait. So try and keep on top of the bad traits and encourage the good ones. Matthew's got this real work ethic where he works really hard. He's been known to be at his computer for 48 hours, working solidly, just with toilet breaks and meal breaks. And so whilst he may not be particularly clean, he knows how to work and get things done. And he was producing one new book a month for 7 years, but ChatGPT came out, and before he realized that you couldn't publish books on Amazon using it, he'd published 5 books in a week. So he went to another level of production. And so Matthew's creative, and he can write, and he's a solid worker, and yet he's got difficulties in hygiene and cleaning up after himself, and putting on new clothes and stuff. And so your children are going to have good parts and bad parts, and try and curb the bad parts and really encourage the great parts, you know.
Thank you, Esther. Obviously you were a foreigner in the land of Zusa. How did Mordecai help to shape your understanding of your identity?
We read the Bible, and he was particularly close to the Lord, and he was able to read the Old Testament Word of God, the Law and the Prophets, and he was able to pull verses out. He was able to pick verses that applied to life in where we're living, and he was able to teach me how to apply the Word of God to my life in every situation. Ecclesiastics is really handy, and Proverbs is really handy, and the Psalms are handy, and there's verses in there that he used in a practical way. Everyone needs an uncle or guardian like him. I was taught by teachers, and I was taught by reading, and he developed my character through modeling right behavior and introducing me to friends and other women who were used to model my behavior as a young woman.
Thank you so much. And how did this impact your sense of self or way of living? All these things, reading the Bible, being exposed to other Jews around you, loving people, how did that impact the way you lived during those times?
I had a particular Mordecai introduced me to a couple of females his age that were wonderful people, and they were like foster mothers for me, and I grew a healthy self-esteem. I was naturally pretty and attractive, and they were able to instill in me true beauty. True beauty was a matter of the heart and a matter of how I treated people, a matter of how I loved people. And these women really held themselves well and were respectable women in the community. And they had a good relationship with my uncle. So they affected me. He was almost a woman himself. The way he treated me allowed me to speak, and he learned to speak with meandering stories like a woman. And they were often round at our place, having meals and drinking and talking to me and modeling right behavior with me. I grew up as a real lady with their tutoring.
Thank you, Esther. Looking at your future, who you eventually became, which was the queen of King Xerxes. Have you ever felt, where were you an orphan? Why did that happen? Why did God allow you to be an orphan?
I looking back in hindsight, I had something missing with my parents, and it was that shortfall that other children didn't have, that thrust me into the bosom of God and developed a really strong faith in me, that I didn't so much look at what was wrong with me and my hassle. I looked at what was right, how my uncle had stepped in and these other couple of women were in my life. So rather than feeling cursed or let down by God, I felt that Mordecai and the two women that were in my life were blessings. And I learned to not see things through a bad lens, but through a good lens of blessing and providence. And so I was in the right frame of mind as a young lady to be asked to come and audition before the king. I felt really comfortable within myself, and very strong woman, and certainly beautiful. And I felt worthy to be made one of the women that were going to be auditioned to see if I was queen. I'm not sure if someone who had parents would have had that mindset that I had, this strong reliance on God and his providence and the blessings of God, rather than looking at the bad things that had happened to me. And Mordecai, he was like my dad, and the women were like older women were like my mothers, and like I used to be happy that I had like two mothers, and the other girls only had one. So I had friends who I could go around to their place and meet their parents, and I grew up with some of my girlfriend's parents, and I got extra because you see a boy with a limp, and people come alongside him and treat him more special than other children because they see he's got a limp. Well, I had this limp, and people overcompensated with my life. And Mordecai was able to teach me that God was a God of blessing, not a God of curses, and that I was blessed to have no parents, and I was blessed to have my disposition. So I was someone who performed well at school and performed well in everything I achieved. And Matthew's been through some horrific struggles and struggles every day with mental illness and with his sleep and stuff. And he's got diabetes, and he's got a bad heart, and he's finding it hard to walk these days. He's getting puffed really easy. And despite his challenges, has made him into a really resilient, determined man. And could he be this resilient, determined man without the struggles? Well, maybe he could, but it's a testament to God's grace and God's favor in his life that he can be resilient. And just like I started behind the line from other people, my life transformed into something that was full of blessing.
Yes, and that is a great testimony of God. For viewers that might be watching this, or people that are currently orphaned or going through challenges in their life, how do you encourage them, or they've lost one of their parents, or they feel that God is not watching over them, God has abandoned them, that through the challenges of life, they should look at your life as an example that God can turn it around for good?
God is like Matthew's not sorry for me saying this, so we're going to say God's like a Santa Claus in the sky. You know, many children believe that Santa gives them presents, and they live to a certain age before they realize that Santa isn't real. But children expect to get a present, and they expect to get a hug, and they expect him to be happy, and they expect him to be giving. They expect him to be good to them. And if you can assume that God is a benevolent God, a happy God, a loving God, when you get a proper perspective of who God really is, and Matthew's been fortunate that his circumstances has thrust him into a relationship with God where he can talk back and forth to God. And when you have that ability to journal and speak to God face to face, it changes your perspective. But God's God who can supply all your needs according to his riches and glory. And he's a benevolent God. He's a loving God. He's a compassionate God. He's slow to anger. It's very forgiving. And so if you're struggling and you've had a hard time, if you've lost a parent, you can look into my story and perhaps go through these interviews, these part 1, part 2, more than once, and hear what I have to say. I don't discount that I lost my parents, but my life might not have turned out as well as it did if I didn't lose my parents. And Matthew wouldn't be the shining example of Christ that he is without the hardship and the trials. And to walk on earth, you need friction, and it's the trials and struggles of life that gives that resistance that causes friction. And so I would learn how to hear from God. Matthew's got a book called How to Hear God's Voice, and if you look that up under Matthew Robert Payne, that would be a good book to download. And he's got another book, 24 Ways of Hearing God's Voice, and that's a good book. And he's got books, Conversations with God, book 1 to 3, and they're print. They're his journals in print. And if you read those books, you'd get a good understanding of God, who God is. But I met God in the Bible. I met God through my uncle Love. I met God through the other women that helped bring me up. I met God in the parents of some of my friends. And so I encourage you to, if you're hurting or you've got trials, to run to a place where you're going to find God's presence.
Thank you so much, Esther. Now going to King Xerxes. What can you say of King Xerxes' character and extravagancy? Like running a feast for 180 days, so much abundance. What could you say? Because you lived with him. So what could you say of the king?
He was is well respected. He carried his authority well. He was humble. He wasn't a proud man. He believed in order. He believed in everything has its place. Everything has its order. He was well aware of protocol and well aware of his reign. He was well aware of his power, but he didn't let that go to his head. He used to put on long parties and extravagant parties, and he had the money to boast, and he had the empire that could sustain that sort of lavishness. You can bet that you don't know, but I had some wonderful outfits and wonderful dresses, and he spent an extraordinary amount of money on my beauty and having me well presented and having me looking beautiful. I had the best of perfumes. I had the best of maids and servants, and I was truly lavishly looked after, a lot better, a lot wealthier than the Queen of England.
Thank you. And what can you say of Queen Vashti? Do you know her at all?
No, I never knew her. I was young when she was in. I knew of her, and I'd seen like a public appearance, but I didn't know her personally.
Thank you. And obviously, King Xerxes did send Queen Vashti. He banned him out of the palace. But obviously, later on, he regretted his action. So what could you say of his anger? Is he someone that gets angry easily when you're living with?
He's like any man. If you push the right buttons, he can explode and get upset. He didn't like disrespect. He liked honor and servitude and obedience and respect. And as long as I was respecting him, as long as I was honoring him, I could give him advice. I could bring him counsel in a really respectful, womanly way. But if I was disobedient, or if I didn't act according to his demands or whatever he wanted, you could see irritation come into his voice. And if I ever heard like one skerrick, one ounce of irritation, I quickly adjusted myself. Sometimes it was just lack of understanding of exactly what he wanted. Sometimes it was just an innocent mistake, and I'd hear the irritation, and I'd even be bold enough to ask him a question, "Aren't I doing it right?" And he would show me the proper way to do things. So some things were innocent, but he didn't really get angry with me because he knew anything I did wrong over time was my own innocence and my own ignorance, and I lavished love on him. I lavished him with respect, and I really loved him, and I was so happy that he chose me.
Thank you, Esther. That's really good to hear. I hope King Xerxes is hearing this as well. What made you to participate in the queen selection process? Did you hear any instruction from God? Was it Mordecai's idea? How did you come about?
Mordecai gave me that advice to step forward and participate. Yeah, and so it was like Mordecai often was my spokesman for God, and he was like a father figure, and he was like giving away his daughter to a king, and he prayed about it, and he felt led for me to do it, and he also prayed for me to succeed. He didn't know, he didn't have an inkling that I would serve a purpose that I did. He just had a good feeling about it, and he was a pagan king. He wasn't a Jewish king, and Mordecai was all for it.
Oh, that's another good thing you've mentioned. It was a pagan king, which I guess these days Christians always want to marry each other and not marry someone that is unbeliever or doesn't practice their religion. So did you find that as something you dreaded, that you wouldn't want to go and marry a king that doesn't know your God?
No, he was very faithful to his gods, and he was faithful to what he believed, and he had respect for my God and honored my God, and on Shabbat and on the Jewish Sabbath, he was respectful that I wouldn't do any work, and I would have keep the Sabbath holy, and he was very understanding. He didn't enforce his religion on me, and it's respect goes both ways, women. You know, you respect your man and honor your man and love your man, and your man will love you and respect you and honor you back. And Matthew's mother used to say, a woman is like a mirror. You know, if you're respectful and loving and kind and gentle with her, she'll be the same back to you. But if you disrespect her and treat her harshly, she won't find it within herself to be so beautiful to you.
Thank you, Esther. Obviously, when you entered the competition, you received a lot of favor from a guy, the king's eunuch. What gave you that special treatment? Do you know why you were treated so special?
Uh, I, uh, I was a naturally really charming and encouraging person. I saw the good in everyone, and I saw good qualities in everyone. And when time presented itself, I would encourage a person and mention their good qualities. So I was consciously, uh, consciously and consistently lifting staff up and encouraging staff and encouraging everyone I met and everyone I did business with. I was very good for the king. I smothered over and improved a lot of the alliances with other kings and popular people, because they loved to meet his wife and spend time with me, his wife, and I carried authority, and I encouraged, and some in witchcraft they use the word flattery. Some people would mistakenly think I flattered people, but I was just came from a good heart, and I encouraged people. And women were really blessed, like monarchs and leaders, dignitaries. Wives were really happy when I said that her pearl necklace was really nice, or that brooch is very nice, or that's their nice shoes or whatever. And it wasn't the same compliment for everyone, and not every woman got a compliment. And it's only the ones I feel led or I've felt to encourage. So the eunuch only heard a couple of my compliments on his service, and what a great servant he was, for him to quickly have me as his favorite. And I carried a lot of influence on the staff, and the staff worked better for the king from my influence. And just like when the Ark of the Covenant, David's Ark of the Covenant, wherever it was, apart from Jerusalem, it brought a blessing wherever it was. And I was like the Ark of the Covenant. I had the glory of the Lord, and the glory rested on me, and whatever I touched prospered. And so I made the king a better king, and everything prospered under my reign.
Thank you, Esther. So how should we Christians follow the same rules, the same guidelines, the same ways of life, encouraging people, making them happy? Can you shed more light on that?
You know, Matthew's foundation in his life has been to understand the teachings of Jesus, and out of obeying the teachings of Jesus and the commandments of Jesus, Matthew takes every thought captive and decides what he's going to do based on what Scripture says. And over the years, it's forged in him the character of Jesus. And when you've got the character of Jesus, and you're gifted with the prophetic gift, you can encourage people. You can even things that you can't readily discern in a person, you can encourage that in a person, because you can prophetically tell that they're really intelligent, or they're really genuine, or they're really patient. And so it just takes effort to decide that you're going to be a beautiful person. It takes effort not to be selfish and not to make the whole world about you. And many times people want to gain favor, they want to gain traction with other people. So they use flattery, which is a cheap form of encouragement. It's flattery is when you want something back from someone, and so you're exchanging a compliment in order to get something. And so flattery is about a real selfish person and an evil person. But genuinely complimenting, taking the time to be observant, looking at good things, always having your eyes open about how someone distinguishes themselves above other people. And you can constantly be used to encourage people, and people love to be encouraged. People love a compliment, and you don't have to have any agenda. You don't have to win a person to the Lord. You don't have to say a sinner's prayer with you. It's quite okay to tell a girl that she's got wonderful hair, and women pay lots of money to get hair permed like that, and yours is natural and it's really beautiful. And Matthew said that to a woman today at the start of the conversation, where she's talking back and forth, and he complimented her on the fact that she had talked to a stranger and she was so cordial, and she was very happy to meet him. And when you get your focus off yourself and you stop thinking selfishly about yourself, and you start to think, how can I bless this person? How can I be a blessing today? When you have that attitude, it'll manifest for you. You can ask the Holy Spirit in the morning, give me a couple of people to encourage today, and the Holy Spirit will line it up for you to encourage 2 people. If you said to the Holy Spirit, give us 5 people today, he'd arrange it for 5 people. But it really comes down to getting your focus off yourself and not being so selfish and self important and self grandiose feelings about how important you are, and getting your focus on other people. Jesus went around encouraging thousands of people, not just healing, not just teaching, but everyone loved his company. Everyone loved to hang around him. And when he wanted to let his hair down, the sinners and the prostitutes used to tell him to come to their table, and he'd have beers with them and have drinks with them. And they loved him, and they weren't asking him pointed questions, or they weren't trying to bait him with their questions. They weren't judging him. He used to go around the sinners just to relax and have a good time, and they're his favourite sort of people. And they're still his favourite sort of people because they've got no agenda, and they don't wear faces, and they're real people and they're genuine. So be that real person, be that genuine person. Get your eyes off yourself.
Thank you, Esther. And the treatment you got from Hagar, how did that made you feel?
The what?
The treatment you got from Hagar, the favor you received from Hagar, how did that made you feel as a person?
Matthew needs reminding of that story.
So Hagar is the Enoch that treated you well when you entered into the.
So it made me feel really special, the way that he treated me. Do you know, I'm asking for behalf of Matthew, did Haggai take over as my Enoch or eunuch, or was he still the king's eunuch?
He was still the king's eunuch.
Yeah.
But he was taking care of you.
Yeah, he really honored me and respected me, and I lavished him with the same love and praise that I lavished on the king. He was an extension of the king. I saw him as part of the king, and so I had this really loving, respectful relationship with him, and he'd never been treated as a servant so well, and so I was his favorite. He was really happy in my reign, not so much with the former wife. And so he told me that he told me that I was his favorite, and he was really happy. And he went through a couple of emotional things in our time together, and he came to me and broke down in tears and was able to share with me, and I was able to comfort him on a couple of occasions. And that was out of protocol. Like, he was meant to be serving me and not breaking down and crying. But when the hard things came for him, he came to me for help.
That's so. How do Christians who are in the position of power, how should we treat people that are serving us, from your own experience of being the queen of Susa?
Do you know, everyone has things that they're good at. Everyone has things that they're not good at. Encouraging people when they're having a hard time is really respectful of a person. Like, Matthew often visits a McDonald's or a restaurant on a person's first day, and they're having a hard time doing the cash register, and they're having a difficult time. And you can recognize that as a person and encourage the person on their first day, and say hello to them on their second day, and depending on how often you go to McDonald's. And you can really encourage and build a relationship, and they remember. And when people is answering to your authority, when you show kindness to them, they never forget. And so, especially when they're vulnerable, especially when they're dealing with something they can't handle, or they're doing something not so good, your helpful instruction, your helpful, this is the way to do it, you're doing really well. They remember that kindness. They remember the good, the encouragement that you give people. Jesus said, whoever wants to be great must become the servant of all. And Jesus went about serving people. He just served humanity. He didn't serve himself. And he's still in heaven serving people. He's still in heaven interceding for people. When people pray, he listens to the prayer. He takes out the bad parts of the prayer that aren't going to amount to anything, that aren't scriptural. Then he adds his own prayer that is scriptural for the person. So he's constantly running around heaven with apron strings on, serving people, and that's part of being in a position of authority. Jesus way, doing things Jesus way is being a servant. How you can help your staff become better people, how you can help your staff do their destiny and do their purpose. And you would get a better speechwriter if you gave them feedback and said, I really like this line. That was a really powerful line. And I didn't so much like this line. And I changed it and edited it and said it to see this. Can you see how that's got more power? Yes, I can. And becoming one with a person, or even going underneath them in humility and building them up, being vulnerable with staff, being vulnerable with people that you serve, that serve you. Being real, being honest, being genuine, being transparent with people. These are all things that you can do to encourage people and have people loyal to you. Remember, if you ever do one of your staff or someone that you're in ministry with a favor, if you really extend yourself or loan them $20 or give them $20 or do some sort of favor, it's never forgotten. It's never forgotten for someone who's a subordinate of yours. One day, Matthew was washing up all these air conditioning grates, and it was really greasy. And he had his hands in all this blackness in this water, washing it. And the manager of the store came along and said, "What are you doing? He's doing this." He said, "Why aren't you managing the back area? It's your job to manage." And I said, I didn't want to get anyone else to do this. I thought I'd do this job. And he said, here, push over, let me do it. I said, but you're the manager of the, he said, but you're the manager of the store. And he says, yeah, and you're meant to manage out there. So go and manage out there. I'll do this. After that guy did that, Matthew would lick his boots. Matthew would do anything for that guy. And it's the servant leader. And if you want to look up this whole idea, type in the word servant leadership and go and learn about it, because Jesus was a servant leader. He didn't lord it over everyone, and he still doesn't lord it over everyone. And he's Lord and King of Kings. And when he reigns on earth, he'll be king over all the kings, but he won't lord it over the kings. And he'll encourage them and bless them and build them up, and they'll rule their countries with his authority. He's going to come with a hard whip, and he's going to whip the world into serving him, and then it's going to get lighter, and he's going to be a wonderful Lord for people. So get your eyes off yourself. Once again, bad management, bad leadership comes from selfishness and thinking you're better than someone else.
Thank you, Esther. How did you feel when Mordecai told you not to disclose your nationality, even in the palace?
Matthew wasn't aware that he said that. You may not know the answer to that question. It's one of the reasons you're asking that question. I respected the ground that Mordecai walked on. If he believed that was true and right, I believed that, and I did that. Mordecai was an oracle of God. He was a mouthpiece of God. He was like God himself to me, and so I knew he had reasons for that, and I sensed that it would be dangerous for me to reveal my heritage, so I didn't. But I had no fear, I wanted to tell the eunuch. I wanted to tell him at one stage when he was in tears, and it would have helped if I told him the history of the Israelites to help dry his tears, but I held back at that stage. But that was the only time that I was tempted to share it.
Thank you, Esther. What I noticed from your story, you're very obedient and submissive. person that throughout your life you keep submitting to other people's instructions, especially Mordecai and the king, and probably other people that you respected in your life? And my next question is similar probably to your response, because I was thinking, what made you to listen to Mordecai each time he gave you an instruction? But I think you've answered some of it, that you saw him like God to you.
You remember it says in the Bible that Moses was God and Aaron was the prophet, and Aaron saw Moses as God, like God speaking, and it's the same as me and Mordecai. He represented God. He was uncanny. I'd have a thought and a feeling and a direction for something, and Mordecai would tell me to do something exactly what I was thinking. He was so aligned, I would never think to question it. The same as the king was a ruler over a vast network. He had power, and it serves you good to respect that power, and it serves you good to respect all the monarchs and all the kings and queens and monarchs and royal people that came to the palace. They all had power, and it serves your interest to bow to power and be humble towards power. And I worked in I put out disputes, and I was able to be a peacemaker between different countries by just appealing to one of the partners. I was just, can you imagine just having like a stunning, beautiful, sweet-smelling, well-dressed woman sit down with you as a king, and a whole lot prettier than your wife, and taking the time just to get to know you and encourage you. And they ask you, it's the middle of a banquet and they go on for days and days. He asks you questions about his kingdom. What would you do in this respect? And my king was somewhere else. He's asking me, and I'd be able to say, well, I'm not your queen, but this is what I'd do. This is what I'd suggest. And the king, my king, gave me a lot of responsibility, and he knew I was giving advice to the monarchs and the things. He totally trusted me, because I'd never, ever, ever disobeyed him. I'd never thought I was too right. And that's the thing, as a Christian, God wrote the laws and wrote the rules. If you want to go and break his rules, it's you thinking you're right and you know best. And that's what happens with most Christians, and not obeying Jesus, and they're not respecting his authority. But it says that he that has been trusted with little will be trusted with much. And so God puts you to the test, and tests you and tests you and tests you until you are found faithful, and you are found that you can be trusted. And over the course of many years, Matthew's been trusted to bring forth these messages. And right now, he's not only addressing you, and he's not only addressing the 30 or 40 people that watch it on YouTube, he's addressing the whole of heaven, all of the people. I'm addressing the courts of heaven are watching this and listening to this, and this is applicable. And they're really dialed in and leaning forward in their chairs, because this isn't in the Bible. This is new to everyone. And I hope if you're in a position of leadership, if you're in any sort of position where you're subservient and your staff of some ministry, honor the ministry. If you think that your leader is out of line, take him aside and say so, but don't dishonor him and don't disrespect him and don't be disobedient. Follow the leader. God has put him in charge or her in charge. Obey them and do things their way. And if you think they're out of line, respectfully approach them or write them a letter and tell them, but do it with love wanting to change them, and in humility, not in pride. And Matthew's found that 99% of the people that bring him correction are full of pride and self-righteousness, and they have no love for him, that doesn't get received. So you'll find yourself, if you feel that you need to correct someone, you'll find that 98% of the time you're in the wrong spirit and you're coming from the wrong spirit. The best way to change a person is to obey them and be loyal to them and be humble before their leadership. So I hope that helped.
Yes, it did. But why do you think Christians struggle to obey God?
Because they think God is stupid. They think God's ways are archaic, like 2,000-year-old stupid rules. You know, bless your enemy, like give your enemy $50 and really bless them. That's just the opposite of what a person would think is common sense. Turn the other cheek. Yeah, what if they hit you again? Turn the other cheek. How many times do I need to forgive? Well, Peter said 7 times 70, 490 times. Forgive, 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 forgive. That's in the Bible, but no Christian does it. A Christian is hurt 2 or 3 times by another person. They block them or they get rid of them, and they don't forgive them 70 times 7. And you'll find if you read the 50 Commandments of Jesus, Matthew's got a book called The Narrow Way, the 50 Commandments of Jesus. You'll find if you read them, you'll find most of them you're not doing. And you're not doing it because you think your way is better than God's way. You think you can do it better, or yours is faster, or yours is going to be more efficient, or yours can be dealt with better. But God's way is the best. And so people don't think that Jesus is very smart and God is really smart. And so essentially they disobey him because they don't think he's very wise.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Esther, for that response. I'm looking at time as well, because I could see you're looking at the time, Matthew.
Yeah. So do you want to finish it there?
One more question, then we'll finish it there. The Bible did mention that you accepted Hagar's advice as well on many occasions. That's the king.
Who is this person?
That's the King Enoch. Hagar, the same person that we've mentioned before, is one of the kings. Enoch is king. So what made you accept his advice? I know you like.
I learned to honor, because Mordecai taught me to honor people in leadership and honor respect authority, respect people's positions. If a butler came to you and said, I think the pants that you put out for yourself won't go well with that shirt, I think these pants would be better. The butler's the expert. It doesn't matter that he's one of your servants. He knows best. So being humble and changing the pants would be a good thing. Well, that wouldn't happen if you've got a proper butler, because he would have put your clothes out for you. But what say that you just got some pants out and he hadn't prepared it? With anything like a watchmaker, a shoe polisher, anyone in any position, it doesn't matter what they do, they're the expert. And if you can just humble yourself and listen to the words of the expert. The chef might come in while you're cooking a banquet for yourself, and the chef of the house may come in and say, just put that under heating iron for 2 minutes and that'll give the caramel crisp on the top. Just use this. You may never have done that before and wondered how he did it, but he just walks in at the right moment and says, use this for 2 minutes on the top of it, and that'll brown it up. He's the chef, he's the expert. And the problem with people in this world is they think they know, and they're so selfish and they're so self-centered that they're humble. So few people are really humble, and everyone in any position in a kingdom has power, they have authority, they've got a job. So it's okay to go and ask the head of the kitchen, where do you take your scraps? Can I have you got any scraps that I can feed my kitten that I got yesterday? Can you put some of them aside for me? The best scraps for that is the meat, the scrapings of the roast, you can have the chef collect that for you each day and put that aside for you. Going to the expert to get the advice, and so that's why it was so easy to obey the eunuch, because he had a position of authority in the king's kingdom, and he was his trusted servant, and he'd lost his manhood to serve the king, and he was trusted around all the women and all the females, and that's one of the reasons eunuchs are eunuchs. And so he was really trusted, and he was a dear friend of mine. And just like Mordecai taught me to respect everyone, to respect authority, to respect power, respect everyone's position, he taught me really well. Because I was taught really well, I did it really well. This may all be news to you guys, but it takes quite an effort to display Jesus well.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you. I think that's my last question for this part 1 of the video. Have you got anything to say to around this part 1 or
So Tulu, I want to congratulate you for bringing some really wonderful questions. Matthew may have a break for half an hour, and you may do part 2. I want to really, I really want to give you feedback that you've really made me happy. Matthew doesn't know the rest of your questions, but you asked some really good questions, and you gave me the opportunity to show a side of me that no one knows, and tell my story. And the whole of heaven is just totally amazed. And some of the things I've said is changing the culture of heaven and convicting people in heaven. And especially in my talk about selfishness, there still exists carnal thought and flesh in heaven. And some people listening have been convicted and not so much respecting authority in heaven. And I thank you for your questions. You're a dear soul, and I look forward to answering more of your questions. And Mary, I hope that you've been enjoying this so much. And that's one thing that you have always done. You've always respected and accepted Matthew's position as a prophet. You've really held that high and held him in high esteem for being a prophet. And you've also held him in high esteem as a writer and said he's written some of the best books. And you're subservient in your humility when it comes to the office of prophet and writer of Matthew, and even teacher in his videos, really encourages Matthew and allows Matthew to be seen. And very few people actually see Matthew, and he's trying to be seen and understood, and he's comfortable, and it's why he rings you every day to touch base, because he really loves you and loves to hear your feedback on everything he does. And so I want to thank you for being his friend and being there for him. If you like this video, please like it. If you thought this video was a good video, share it on your Facebook, and it'll say part 1, so people will know there's a part 2, part 3, and part 4 coming. If this is the first thing you've seen of Matthew's, feel free to subscribe to his channel. And if you've got a YouTube account, please write a comment.